Good morning, everybody, and I'm Andy Abramson of SkySwitch, and we're here today for another in our continuing series of webinars for our SkySwitch resellers. Today, we're going to aim to change the way people look at telecommunications services and wireless communications as we're joined by Metro Wireless. Metro Wireless is a leading wireless internet service provider, otherwise known as a WISP, and they offer truly unique, disruptive, and bold technology solutions. They're also a SkySwitch reseller. To show our resellers the value add that Metro Wireless brings to SkySwitch and to their own customers, we actually asked their founder and CEO, Dominic Serra, and Director of Business Development, Michael Chudarash, to join us today for a webinar that's going to highlight why having their variety of services in your back pocket will greatly enhance your product deck and all that you have to offer. During this webinar, resellers are going to learn all about the quick turnaround of nationwide unlimited primary and backup LTE with a multi-modem internet option in place that will keep your clients happy and, more importantly, connected in times of need. We're going to give you an overview about Metro Wireless, some of the sales value drivers that you can take advantage of like they have, the products and services they have to offer, failover and Sd-Wan, nationwide unlimited LTE, and how you can combine LTE and wide area networks together. All combined, that's going to give you the Metro Wireless difference, which again, they're a SkySwitch reseller, so they're not only selling their wireless services, they're selling SkySwitch wirelessly. You all know who I am. I've been moderating these webinars for a little over a year and having a lot of fun with all of our many partners and suppliers and resellers who take part. If you have questions, please put them in the Q&A, not the chat, and we'll get to them either during the webinar or at the end of our Q&A. And with that, I'm going to pass it over to Dominic.
Hello, and good morning, everyone. This is actually Mike Chudarash. Dominic will be joining in on various parts of the presentation. Hope everybody's having a good summer so far, and we're all looking forward to, hopefully, if we can, all connecting in March at Vectors. Last time we were there, outstanding time meeting many of you, and I look forward to those continued relationships. So with that said, we feel there's a lot of providers, but only one of us, and we invite you to experience the difference.
It would be great, Michael, if you and Dominic can give a little bit of your background and talk about how long you've been involved and some of the things you've been doing in the world of wireless communications.
Certainly. On my end, I've actually been in the industry. This is my 35th year in telecom and IT. On the wireless side, for me, it's been about 9 years in working with different wireless solutions, most of which working with Dominic Serra, who actually in our area here in Michigan deployed the first wireless networks, microwave networks that we know today. That's how I met Dominic and started working with him when I ran IT for a medical IT firm. And the product was so outstanding that I felt I had to join the team. So for me, I've been here at Metro Wireless 2.5 years, but really working in the wireless arena for 9+. And Dominic, I'm gonna turn over to Dominic for his comments, but I can tell you that Dominic's another lifer in this industry as well. And I think Dom may be having a little bit of technical difficulty, so I'm gonna fill you in on him. So Dominic's been in the industry now, coming up on approximately 17 years. He started his telecom pursuit working with 123Net, building wireless networks for them and launching those in the state of Michigan. From that, 7 years ago, he decided to start Metro Wireless, his own organization, as he had a vision that would be much more expansive in the wireless arena. So he started his own firm, and here today, 7 years later, we're 10 people strong as an organization. We serve multiple vendors and multiple partners across the country, and with our LTE solutions and fixed wireless solutions. which we'll be talking about all those as we go forward in the presentation.
Michael, why don't you give an overview of just the breadth and scope of what Metro Wireless has to offer?
I will do so. So Metro Wireless really offers business continuity solutions. That's our mainstay. Yes, wireless is really what we provide: LTE wireless and microwave wireless, along with custom wireless networks. But they're all deployed in such a fashion to really get us to business continuity. So we do quite a bit of custom work across the country, Wi-Fi networks that we build. We're, just unique things we work on. Right now, we're working on things with city parks here in the Metro Detroit area, where we're helping them set up to deploy Wi-Fi to all the users of those parks and sports parks for football operations and so on. Those are really exciting projects. Then again, over on other ends of the spectrum, we work with businesses all day long to provide them a gig of internet, 100 meg of internet, what have you, and all the way to special projects like the Detroit Grand Prix and Ford's new headquarters. We're working on all those kinds of projects. So our product bag is wide and deep, but remains focused on custom applications for various clients and various needs. And this is why the slide that you're seeing now is really what our company culture is all about. We know that relationships are going to build business, and we deliver, and that keeps everybody happy. Part of our philosophy is saying what we're going to do and doing what we say, and that's allowed us to work from a single residential client all the way up to somebody like Ford Motor and Detroit Grand Prix, for instance.
Why don't you give Michael, a good overview while we wait for Dominic? This is something we expected Dominic to jump in about, but on slide 5, give an overview about just how the business started, when it started, go a little deeper into the services that you were able to provide to businesses, not only in the metropolitan Detroit area, but actually nationwide. Obviously, you're what would be considered a hybrid service provider or a WISP. Why don't you explain a little bit about being a WISP and what that means, and how you actually, from the ground up, as a design build firm, you're not just laying in equipment, you're actually figuring out what someone needs for a wireless infrastructure on their property, large, small, because you guys are really creative at solving complex IT challenges and then coming along and providing service after the sale. So if you can give that overview of Metro Wireless, I think help our resellers understand your position in the overall telecom ecosystem.
Okay, certainly. So kind of starting from the beginning here, how we built our network. That's been done on a platform of microwave services, essentially. We did not start out as being an LTE provider. We started out really as straight microwave delivery. So we selected our very first areas in a concentrated area of Metro Detroit, again, going back about 7.5 years, such that we knew the scope of business that we could get in downtown Detroit, and we built our network out from there. So it's been a growth based on all the aspects that we see in Michigan, Detroit area in particular, and where the business needs were. We saw where fiber cuts were happening. We saw where coaxial services weren't being deployed, and we really kind of guided building our network from there. So that's really how we've kind of started everything. But then at the same time, there became a need for LTE services, which really got us closer to our continuity package, where we want to make sure that all the IP-based PBX systems out there would continue, and we would be able to really keep those systems running, such as SkySwitch. Most of the work I've done with SkySwitch has been about that. We need to be sure our systems are up and running, and they might have had cable or they might have had some fiber, but our product would sit in the background and be able to pick up the difference from an Sd-Wan standpoint, or just from a standpoint of providing voice prioritization on that circuit. So what we've really done is really dug in this industry to be that, I don't like to call it a niche player, but we are to a certain degree, because we're not a cable provider. So our LTE products continue to expand. And we'll be talking more deeply on those products as we kind of get forward here. So I don't want to go too far into the LTE side, but we did move into an unlimited world on our LTE services, and that's the product that is really, really hot right now. Sometimes when you have a chance to work with something like that, and we have relationships with key carriers like Verizon and T-Mobile and so forth, they see the vision and they'll work with us with these kinds of products. So there's a lot of relationship building that went on with respect to this. Kind of jumping over to a quick, you're looking at our company overview slide now. This kind of gets to some of what we're talking about. Family owned and operated, and that means that Dominic has really dove into this whole project, not only with his wife Joanna, who works closely with us on our marketing, but we as employees also share in the ownership of the company. So everybody is committed to the success of our organization. Nationwide service delivery. That's why we're all on the phone today, because we can serve many of your agents no matter what part of the country they're in, no matter how rural they might be located, and that's very important. Hybrid internet service provider. I'm sorry?
You're a hybrid. Why don't you talk about being a hybrid service provider and what a WISP really does and all the pieces and parts that are different than simply just supplying dial tone?
Sure enough. There's different ways that we can provide internet. We are a wireless internet service provider, first and foremost. So that means you're really going to play in a couple different arenas. Most of those, across the country, nobody has one microwave wireless network built. So we really pretty much work closely in Michigan with that, but partners across the country to deploy wireless services that we can actually connect to make a mesh network. So that's one thing that's very important. But the reason the hybrid word that comes into play is because we're an aggregator. We can provide fiber, we can provide LTE, we can provide fixed wireless. So that kind of gets into the fact that we're a full scale service provider, and that means we design, build, and maintain our own networks as well. So that's something that is very big, is that we can control exactly how those networks are going to operate. Even if I were to work with a partner that provides another wireless service, let's just say in California, we have ways to connect to them and bring them into our data center so that we end up ultimately managing that circuit. Solving complex IT challenges is something we do all day long. We have many agents that come to us with, we can't get service here, or things just aren't working well with our carrier. They've kind of sold us a bill of goods, and now we have this IP phone system that won't work. This is an area where we come into play, roll our sleeves up, and work with the agent. Always remembering the one that brought us to the dance, but we're happy to get on conversations with the client and the agent if that's what they would desire. So we're very easy to work with, and that's where the creative culture comes into play, is that all of us at this organization have many years in this business, so we know that customer service is really what it comes down to, and delivering something that's going to be reliable. There's no hiding in this business. It works or it doesn't. So this is
Michael and Dominic, if Dominic's been able to solve his technical problems, it's really interesting the breadth and scope of what Metro Wireless has to offer our SkySwitch resellers. What are some of the sales value drivers that make you different and allow you to offer the product mix that you do, and to sell into not only metro areas, but rural areas with your nationwide coverage? And what are some of those value-added services that you offer in the way of backup or temporary or even primary solutions?
Sure enough, and that's coming right up here on our next slide. So we're gonna to the next slide here, and what that's going to get us to is the value drivers. Exactly. So there we are. Okay. All these points are, I'm going to go a little more deeply than what you see here, but first and foremost, for agents, they love the fact that we have very competitive residuals and spiffs, but the unique product offerings that we get into are really going to be various LTE services with special business class modems that we are able to look into remotely and make band changes, unlimited data, data that starts out in the area of about 10 to 30 megs and goes up from there. The solid rural solutions with SLA guarantees, that's something you don't see that on cable. You're not going to have an SLA there. We provide that with our LTE product set, which again, in many cases, I love to talk to the agents about that with their client, that this actually has an SLA attached to it. Why can we serve solid rural solutions? Well, because we also not only use a business class modem that we work with specific software for, but we also have a variety of antennas. So that's something that works really well. Everything from an omnidirectional antenna to the Metro Boost antenna, which also enhances cellular service. So we are actually able to do a check. When the agent calls us and gives us an address, we're actually able to check that address and be able to tell which carrier is going to be best. How far are we from towers? Do we think we're going to need antennas? How is this whole situation going to work for them, and how can we make it most optimized? Which also gets to another point. We actually can optimize the routers remotely. So that's very important. We can deploy quickly. That's pretty big. We can deploy very quickly. In some cases overnight if it's an emergency. Otherwise, it's about 3 to 5 business days to send the modem out to the client. Very, very rapid. And, you know, sometimes it's temporary backup and sometimes it's a primary solution. But we even have month-to-month solutions to help customers along. So we really know what the channel is looking for, and we know how to be flexible, because things change on a dime, and we have to make sure that if an agent calls us, we can help them with their client. That's what's going to keep that relationship tight for them and tight for us.
There's a lot of requirements these days for temporary backup. And can you explain how Metro Wireless handles temporary installations or backup installations for data failover?
I sure can. What we'll do in that case, if we had to overnight a solution, we very likely would have that set up then with Sd-Wan for the client. If they're down hard, that's one thing. If they have a circuit that's bouncing, that's another thing. They may want us to take over the whole network, at which point we're able to provide them with IPs anywhere from a single static IP that comes with it all the way up, /29, /28, you name it. We're able to develop that, get that deployed to them, work closely with their clients as well. If they have IT people involved, we can get on the phone with them and help them as to how this should be connected to the network. In advance of all that, we can shift the IPs so that they know what they are in case they have to do any firewall provisioning on their own in lieu of the service coming the next day. So those are all really key ways as to how we kind of help do something quickly. That our products and services slide that you're looking at now is just a part of our products. That's not in any way all of our products. But what you see here is the Metrowan and the LTE that we've been talking about. With all of our LTE products, Metrowan comes with it at no additional charge, up to 100 meg. So that's something to keep in mind, is that with this product, in a box, they can actually have failover all set up without having to pay anything additional for the SD-WAN. In the SD-WAN world, our IPs are what face the world. So if they were to have Comcast or something and have a Comcast IP, that would be routed to us, and our IP would face the world, and that saves IT from having to do all kinds of network address translation work on their PBX or excuse me, on their firewall, and they don't really have to make too many changes. So that's something that the IT people really like on this product as well. When it comes to voice, like SkySwitch, when we put voice prioritization in place, that voice is going to get the nod, if you will. We live in a world of data, but people can survive a little bit of data and packet loss. Data will still survive that, but voice won't. So we know how important voice is, and that's why we can prioritize that for you. The Metro Burst and Metro Wave product that you see here, those are our fixed wireless offerings. Those are ones, again, where we can serve specific, certainly the Metro Detroit area, but there's a slide coming up where it'll show you our places across the country that we can serve as well. The big thing for these products is just, if there's a question, all we want to do is have the agent give us a call. That's the most important thing, is if you're not sure, just give us a call. Many times we can, have a good fit after we have that discussion with the agent. I kind of personally like to look at each and every deal as its own, and we oftentimes have to go out of the box to design something special, and we're happy to do that. Which gets to this last point, Metro Wi-Fi. That is, again, a very specific product. Hey, we need Wi-Fi in our building. We need it over here. We need a point-to-point circuit. Can you do these things? And all of those things we're very capable of doing. Our product list goes well beyond Metro Wi-Fi. We have the point-to-point. We have Metro Firewall, Metro Fiber, Metro Vox, and of course, what's the Metro Vox platform? Our voice platform on SkySwitch. Nobody better than SkySwitch that I've seen in my time. So we're very happy to be, a partner.
Well, thank you for the kind words, Michael. That's really impressive. One of the things that we know is a growing need for businesses today to keep up and running, but more importantly, to have that right kind of connectivity is a need for an Sd-Wan. And Metro Wireless offers something known as Metrowan to its customers, and you can offer it for sale through our resellers. Can you dive into what Metrowan is all about and how it works?
Yeah, I can jump in, guys. I don't know if I got the issue resolved here. So this is Dominic Serra. So I'm going to talk a little bit about SD-WAN, our platform, our offering. What's really cool about this platform is that we can, first and foremost, assign a new public IP block, which under any situation, regardless of which carrier is being used, it's always going to be that IP block that you use to get out with. So if you're hosting servers and you want to have a failover set up or something where people are logging in with VPNs, or even for voice, it really helps to have that static IP block from a carrier. So that's one of the biggest features with it. Also, we can provide you with all different types of alerts and notifications. So if you've got a bunch of geographically dispersed locations and you need to know when a circuit's going up, going down, that type of thing, this allows that very easily to occur. So it really simplifies the WAN, for the customer or the end user. And then, of course, obviously that increases productivity. We can also do things like active-active solutions. If you've got two or more wireline circuits, or one fixed wireless, one fiber circuit or cable circuit, whatever it may be, we can do all different types of blends with those. Like if we just want to use, for example, the upload on one circuit and the download from another to create a new circuit, all types of configurations. You talk about those all day. And then out of the box on all of our LTE and SD-WAN services, we include end-to-end voice prioritization to the internet. So what that means is that edge device that you have is making a connection back to one of our data centers, and then we are carrying those voice packets and giving them priority over all the different types of traffic you send over the SD-WAN automatically out of the box now. So that's a big feature. Even if you're running on one of our simple LTE circuits and you're using that as a primary, you're going to get that built-in functionality with anything that we offer.
So one of the things that Michael was talking about, Dominic, was how you voice prioritize. It sounds like Metro is very keen on being able to prioritize any type of traffic, whether it's voice or video, or if you've got massive uploads, are you able to
Yeah.
set that up so that it can be running by day part? So when the business is closed at nighttime, they're going to be doing all types of heavy data file uploads, that you're able to retune or regroom the routers?
Yeah, we can prioritize just about any type of traffic in a specific time frame, so we can do that, absolutely. And we do that for a lot of our customers. Now, if it's off hours and you're doing an upload, it may not, it's usually more prevalent during peak usage when you've got people in the office. But whatever your need is, we can provide a solution for that, absolutely. So yeah, and then we offer, like I mentioned before, we can run multiple circuits in unison at the same time and aggregate those into a single circuit. So there's just a lot of really cool features that we can offer as a carrier with this platform. And as it mentions here, we've got obviously a 4.9 SLA. We offer, the voice calls, the ability to continue no matter which path is active without having to re-register. Like some of these solutions out there will require a re-registry on the phone. Ours does not. So if we use this, we've done demonstrations before, even for SkySwitch, where we've pulled the circuit, mid-call, and we've had absolutely no loss of quality, right? No noticeable interruption. We play music a lot of times when we do that test. It's a pretty neat demo. I think it's on our YouTube page. And then
That's
also,
great.
yes, and then we also have a graphical user interface for customers. So we work with quite a few SkySwitch resellers right now, and a lot of them are in this portal, and so they'll be able to see their devices at multiple locations all at one time and pull data from them, see what the usage is, see what the signal level is, all different types of information is available to you.
Dominic, one of the things we talked about when we were getting ready for this webinar is the difference between the Metrowan Sd-Wan and a regular Firewall multi-WAN, and what the driver is for resellers and customers to want to attach that to their network infrastructure. I think if you can take a few minutes to talk about the Metrowan approach to Firewall, it'll be very helpful.
Absolutely. Yeah, so a typical firewall is going to make a decision. Now there's load balancing firewalls which have the capability to send traffic out different paths, but what occurs in that scenario is you've got like different routes to the internet, right? So if you've got, say, a Comcast and an AT&T circuit, it might have the functionality to send traffic one way and then send some traffic the other way and make some sort of intelligent decision based on what's available. However, you're actually, to the outside world, that looks like two different connections, right? So, for example, if you were running VPNs over the AT&T and that went down, if there was a failover mechanism in place there, you may have to, sign into the other VPN that you have, so your users would have to maybe switch over and use that other IP address. If you had websites you were hosting, you might have to do some sort of a DNS failover. It would be a lot slower. So there's a lot of things that occur there in that moment that people discover. Well, my failover, I got two internet circuits, but it's not quite as robust as I would like. And so we play really nice with. I know a lot of people that are SkySwitch resellers are also they sell security products and firewalls, and we don't really, get in the way of that because we're not really focused on security here. So we're not looking to really take over all the duties of managing the firewall aspect and the LAN side of the network. But we make a great complement to people that offer those types of services because we know our place, we know where our role is, and we're not really overlapping with the same level of service. So we just kind of make it better and easier. Now, instead of doing a more complex firewall configuration, having to have all these different subnets set up, you can just have everything behind our subnet and let us handle the failover, and that's our job. So I think it's a fantastic partnership. It's a great synergy that we have, and we've had a lot of success working with security companies and people that offer firewalls.
And this is Mike. I'd like to add that these days, with many of the top-notch firewalls like Cisco ASAs, the security bundles are actually now an annual subscription that is, very pricey. So when you marry this kind of a system with the firewall, there's actually savings that can be realized as well, when that failover is managed kind of prior to the firewall. So just wanted to lob that out there.
Well, guys, how does this, the SD-WAN and the firewall approach that you've got tie into Metro Wireless's whole concept around high availability wireless? Because high availability in the wireless environment means being able to provide that really constant, stable, fast connection. What are you guys doing in that regard?
Yeah, so, I think that I just have to say that I think one of the best things about wireless in general, when it relates to high availability, is that it's a really different delivery method to begin with physically, right? We're not coming into the building. I mean, you could have the most diverse fiber paths in the world, but if they somehow intersect in a location where it only takes a single backhoe to hit, which is oftentimes the case, you're going to have an issue. But when we're talking about the technology we're deploying now, like what are we doing today in 2021? So we're using and deploying Category 12 and 18 modems for our LTE services, which is quote unquote the 5G band. We don't call it 5G. We're still calling it LTE, but it's what your carriers refer to as 5G. It's aggregating, multiple, depending on how we're configured, it could be aggregating multiple bands from a single tower, or we can also do multi-modem bonding as well. So if you need a more robust connection, you want, 2 or 4 modems operating all in unison. We can even build that out so that it goes in different directions. So like we could send, in the right scenario, we could send in theory, two of those modems to one tower and 2 to another tower. So there's just endless ways that we can do this. We can use multi-carrier bonding, so we could have, 2 or more carriers bonded into one single connection wirelessly. The possibilities are pretty much endless. Just, kind of need to know, what your goals and objectives are, and we can design a solution around it.
That would be great, because right now I think wireless is really growing, especially with the traditional telcos no longer wanting to even service copper. When copper goes
Exactly.
bad, which has been going bad for years, they've stopped even wanting to fix the copper build out. They just want to rip it out and tell somebody to go fiber
Yeah.
or wireless. And in a lot of places, fiber isn't, especially in many metro cores around the country. It may be running under the ground, but it's not connected to any building. So the whole idea of a wireless solution that is stable, highly available, super fast, a big fat pipe like 10 gigabits enables businesses to survive, but also more people working from home. The idea of point to point, or at least some type of antenna on a house, on a roof, on a balcony, would be, to me, a very useful solution, which bridges nicely into just what Metro LTE is all about, and how Metro Wireless is able to offer LTE-based internet services pretty much anywhere in the U.S.
Yes, and as I mentioned previously, we're now deploying devices that have band 66, which is the, quote unquote 5G band, right? And so we're seeing really amazing speeds just on that. The slide I have here just kind of goes a little bit into, just the concept of SD-WAN and how that implements it with LTE solutions, or other, like you talked about, other fixed wireless solutions. And yeah, you can do 10 gig now with fixed wireless. Actually, it's been available for years. And then you can even aggregate, 10 gig circuits with fixed wireless. So it's getting pretty close. It's really, I wouldn't say it's quite at parity with, 100 gig, fiber yet, but it's pretty darn close for 99% of users. I think a 10 gig circuit is probably going to be enough to satisfy their daily bandwidth needs.
And 10 gig LTE or 10 gig wireless Ethernet.
10 gig microwave, yeah, 10 gig fixed wireless.
Fixed wireless.
Microwave.
Now,
Yeah.
Dominic, is that in the licensed spectrum band or unlicensed?
Yes, that's purely in a licensed band. In an unlicensed band, you'd be really hard pressed to do more than like a gigabit typically. It would be really hard to do in like a 5 gig frequency. Now, 60 gigahertz is technically unlicensed, so I guess that that's a little bit different. That's a millimeter wave technology that's being used. Like we're actually deploying the Teragraph solution here locally in a couple places. So like that's a multi-point 60 gigahertz scenario that's technically unlicensed. And so yeah, most of the stuff that we do though, as far as like point to point, would be still a licensed 80 gig or common carrier frequency 6, 11, 18, 23 frequencies like that, which are our licensed frequencies.
And how long is the licensing process, or are you already licensed nationwide, which makes it easy for you to deploy quickly?
Yeah, so the way those work is we are able to do those in most areas. It comes down to what's available in a specific area. Like those frequencies are leased out on a case-by-case basis, and so you have to engineer the solution ahead of time, and then implement. And then you go to a third party, and they actually look in the database, the FCC, and verify the channels are available. And if they're available, then you can lock them up for 10 years. So that's how licensed microwave works in essence. It's a kind of like a hybrid process where you build the link, and then you coordinate it, is what they call it.
Now, you've also got something known as Metro LTE Unlimited Advanced. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, and that's kind of what we were discussing. So that's our LTE-based solution, which I always like to say, quote unquote, now 5G, because we are using the same technology that is considered to be 5G, which is really just at the end of the day, it's actually the old AWS band that they're using. The big carriers are just taking that AWS band and they're merging it with some other spectrum they had acquired. And so across the country, like if you've got a 5G phone, what are you actually connecting to? In most areas, you're actually connecting to the AWS bands, which are 1700 to 2100 megahertz, but they're now bonded in a way that's much faster. So the latest modems we're seeing now are doing, just a standard modem with rabbit ears now. Sometimes we can hit 100 meg. Now that's obviously results are not typical, but we're seeing better and better speeds, with these, just with these frequencies and non-line of sight scenarios. But there is a couple other bands in 5G that are not prevalent yet, like 28 gigahertz. And there's very few chipsets that support those, but those will probably be doing, well over 1,000 meg, in a short order.
And with those speeds comes better voice quality, the ability to do HD voice, obviously faster uploads, faster downloads, but more importantly, more solid connections as the data bonding and as the refarming occurs on the LTE networks by the three major operators across the US. Now, are you working with any one specific operator, or are you working with the whole range of US mobile carriers? Michael or Dominic?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I had muted you. Yeah. So I was just saying, the best value that I have to offer is we do have unlimited Verizon and T-Mobile packages right now. We can offer AT&T, and we do offer it. It's definitely a different, cost structure for AT&T, but we offer all the carriers, and we actually even have some legacy Sprint offerings that are very inexpensive for small data use and small backup scenarios, our least expensive offering. But yeah, we offer all four carrier solutions here. Well, technically,
and then when you get down to
three now.
If you get out, Dominic, if you get onto the rural markets, you're then working with some of the rural carriers as well, I'd imagine, not simply the three majors. And then, is that how it works?
Yes. Yeah. In certain areas, we do. Absolutely.
Great. What about the LTE antenna upgrade options? One of you was talking about how you have various LTE antennas. Can you go through those and talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I actually do have a slide coming up about that. I'll just I think I can roll through it, show you some visuals with it. So yeah, we had a Sd-Wan slide here. I think everybody's probably kind of got the concept of this by now, but basically just how, shows how it aggregates. Let me see here. So yeah, we've got a couple different things here. So up on the corner there, up in the right-hand corner, that is an example of, that's one of our older antennas. We've actually updated that one now, but basically we stock a whole variety of different antennas, all the way from window mount to super long range antennas, which are much bigger than that. And that's one of the ways that we're able to achieve these types of things. Like we're the kind of guys that, typically we'll get into a scenario where they'll say, we don't think this is going to work here, but we got no other option. What can you do? And, we'll come out and deliver a solution that, will sometimes surprise people, because we'll get, they'll be getting under a meg on their cell phone, and then we'll have 30 to 40 meg when we're done doing the install with our antennas. So that's, I think, one of the huge advantages, is that we don't just, like I like to say, fling a cradle point at you and just, put our hands up and say we hope it works. No. We're doing a whole lot more. And also, another thing I have to emphasize is that we are tuning the bands, where a lot of guys, again, are just, hey, fling in a cradle point, hope it works. No. We're actually going to go into the device. We've got management of it. If you're having trouble, we might have to go and eliminate a band. We might have to go and make some, RF changes, but we can do that. So we take it a lot further than a lot of these other guys do.
So between the modem and the antennas, you're able to provide, after doing some type of site survey, a higher degree of connectivity, and then tune it based on the different bands that are available in that particular geographic area, the line of sight, and positioning the antennas so that if you're in the middle of, say, 3 or 4 different cell sites, you're able to optimize the cell site that's working best for you.
Exactly. That's precisely what we're doing. And also, one other point, things change. We've noticed that, especially now with these 5G upgrades going in, we've seen some sites that have decreased in quality because they were running on a different band that's no longer available. So we can kind of work with you on that too. If we have the knowledge to know what's going on there, have they upgraded the site, did something change, did something move? Like, we've got quite a bit of technology or mapping and such. So we can really have a more intelligent decision on how to set up your failover or your primary wireless connection.
Why don't you take us through, if a reseller comes to Metro Wireless, one of the SkySwitch resellers, and says, Dominic or Michael, I've got a customer in XYZ location. What does a normal scoping session look like, and how do you determine what the right kind of solution will be and how you price it? Can you just quickly talk a little bit about that? I know we don't have a slide about how you do that, but I think it would be real important for our resellers to understand how they can come to Metro and get a complete solution that they can then put their brand around and sell it in.
Well,
yeah, Mike, you want to take that one? Okay.
I do. And this is a very important one, Andy. Thanks so much for bringing that up. We encourage all of the agents to reach out to us directly, either through sales@metrowireless.com, which again, all that will come up, or even call in directly. I'm one that provides my cell number on every correspondence that I have. We need an address. We want to understand a little bit about the application, what they're looking to accomplish. The address is very big, so we can do that check that I spoke of earlier. But from that, we can start talking to the actual solution. That's the easiest, simple way that this could be. If they want to put an email out that's going to say, I have this going on, that's great. I typically like to have a real quick conversation versus slapping out a number. That's really the difference, because from those conversations, we oftentimes come up with some specific things that we can do that really, excite the agent, because there's other aspects of sometimes a job that, together in discussing, we kind of come up with. So that's the important thing, is the discussion, but the address is going to tell us and guide us everything. I kind of like to know exactly too, what type of environment is this? Just a little bit about the environment. Is there a firewall? Is there not a firewall? Just so that we can help prepare the agent for, this is going to be a self-install, so we're going to ship you this equipment with self-install information, or it's going to go right to the client. We just want to make sure if there's any switches or anything involved that they have their IT properly involved, and everything to make it a smooth transition is really what that whole conversation's about. Most of the times when Dominic or I get on the phone with an agent and a client, 90% of the time we're able to close the deal. So we feel very good about that. So the communication's really important. We're not hard to get to either. Usually same day. If I get a call from somebody, worst case the following day, but typically that very same day. So that's
great. That's awesome.
Yeah, hands-on.
Everybody,
we like the hands-on approach. So
what about
kind of a thought?
What happens when you combine Metro LTE with Metrowan? How does that supercharge a business's connectivity?
Well,
I can grab that. So,
you got that. Okay, Don, go ahead.
So, yeah, we kind of, as we alluded to earlier, we can bond multiple modems in a single device or multiple devices and provide a connection that is more robust, faster, more reliable. We can implement multiple carriers into the mix. So like if we a lot of times we do Verizon and T-Mobile bonding, and we're getting some really good speeds and some really high availability. So and then you can also roll in other carriers as far as wireline providers, fixed wireless providers to that foray, even satellite. And I also mentioned earlier that with our Sd-Wan, we can even pick and choose which upstreams and downstreams we want to primarily utilize. So like if, let's say you have a fast DSL connection, but the upload's really bad, we might just utilize the downstream of that paired with a LTE uplink. We've done that before. So we've done a lot of cool things with this technology that kind of allows you to go out of the box and come up with a solution in an environment where neither one of the connections was meeting your needs. Well, we could kind of bond them in a way that they do. So I think that's a pretty good understanding of it.
You're also offering Metrowave and MetroBurst as a fixed wireless offering, which is, we talked a little bit about licensed services and licensed spectrum. I think some of the uniquenesses there are how you're able to actually offer symmetrical internet connectivity up to 5,000 megabits and really be able to keep the latency below 10 milliseconds. What are some of the opportunities that our resellers should be thinking about when they need this wireless connectivity at the higher speeds? How should they work with Metro?
Yeah, well, reach out. We have a little list of areas where we offer the fixed wireless. It isn't available everywhere. It's probably not going to be available in, more rural locations or outside of major cities for the most part, especially the faster speeds. But where it's available, it's a great solution, in a lot of it's in downtown areas and, major metropolitan areas. But it does make a great solution. And in the more rural areas, the LTE and the pseudo 5G thing that we're doing here is pretty nice now. That could be a great alternative. So it just kind of depends on where, but if you send us those addresses, we'll get them qualified. We're able to, like Mike mentioned, we're able to actually give you the lowdown on where the tower is that we're connecting to, if it's an LTE or a 5G connection now. So we can do quite a bit for you there.
You're in most of the major, what we like to call the NFL markets. When I look at your list of cities or the Major League Baseball markets, and you've also been able to venture into some others. One of the questions that we had from one of our resellers was, are you able to work in Canada? Because as you know, SkySwitch now has a large number of Canadian resellers. So are there any markets in Canada that Metro is able to offer coverage?
Just unfortunately, the only services that we've ever offered in Canada are from, we're on the border here with Windsor. We have done fixed wireless circuits over the border, but due to the current restrictions and the lack of carriers that want to work with us in Canada, we are not offering anything there. Okay,
so that answers our questions for whether you're available in Canada. What are you guys offer some spiffs, some promotions to get people up and running? What are they?
Yeah, I think, do we have a slide on that in here, Mike?
You do, slide 19.
We do. Yep, there's a slide coming up on the spiffs.
Okay, yeah, I'm not sure. It seems like a couple of these are out of order,
Yeah.
unfortunately. Yeah, this is the LTE, you know, the LTE upgrade slide. We kind of already talked about this. Let me just pull it up here. I'm not sure why it was up on the screen.
Here's our specs.
There you go.
Yeah. So yeah, we've got, you know, LTE is currently at 1x, standalone Metrowan is at 2x, but, you know, we're flexible on certain deals. You know, there's a couple different ways you can work with us. Obviously, the most common way is, you know, where, you know, we, as a retail partner, you know, like you offer our services to your end users, we pay you a spiff and a monthly commission. You also have the option of going as a wholesale partner with us, which is where you buy the services wholesale, you get a discounted rate, and then you can mark it up to your end users. And then another thing that we're starting to do, and I'll throw it out there if anybody's interested, is we can do buy rate, which is probably the most profitable method for if you're, you know, in tune with what's going on at your customer, which is where, you know, we sell it to you at a certain rate, and basically what happens is, you know, you tell us what you want the retail price to be, and we can, you know, basically pay you the difference. So if, for example, you know, we said our cost on the circuit is $200 a month, and you knew you could get $300 a month for it, you'd be able to, you know, basically achieve $100 a month in recurring revenue from that, and we would pay you out like you were getting a commission, but it would just be basically a buy rate structure. So if anybody wants to talk offline about that, how that works, we have done that for a few of our local agents here, and we're willing to talk to you about, you know, potentially doing a buy rate. And then, of course, you know, on larger deals, so we've got the 3x going on. So if you bring us 10 or more locations, then you get 3x spiff. So there's many different ways to do it, but, you know, whatever you're most comfortable with and whatever works best for you in that scenario.
Yeah, in fact, we just completed a very large deal where the agent, it was a 40-site deal, and so their 3x worked out very well for them. But as Dan says, we can be pretty flexible with all this. Before we get to the questions and answers, there's another point that I wanted to point out that many of our agents take big advantage of, and that's our co-branding. Our marketing materials can be co-branded with their logo and our logo on it, however they want to do that, so that they actually have collateral they can provide to the client, a one-page or a two-page or something on the product set itself that really kind of helps the client get past, you know, the wireless questions that we all know exist. A lot of times there's going to be, you know, boy, that wireless, I'm just not sure of that. So we want to be able to, at all points, help them with that side of their presentation. So those are available. All they have to do is ask. And when I talk to an agent, I remind them, hey, we can do this for you too. So that's something I wanted to make sure we didn't forget about.
That's great, Michael. I'm going to dive into the questions and answers in the short time we have remaining. Daryl Panzer asked, does the audio drop when it fails over to LTE, or is there a brief delay when it switches over?
That'll be a
so
no.
I'll grab that.
Okay.
So yeah, we actually do a test here, and I wish we had more time, but we actually will play music and then yank the cable. And so I thought that was even better than a voice call. And if you even hear a flicker, it's uncommon, but it's typically completely seamless. Like you wouldn't even know you switched circuits. So now I just want to say, if it's a scenario where like it's a partial failure and like it's just like high latency and it doesn't quite hit the threshold, sometimes what we'll do, if you're having like, you know, intermittent cable problems or something and it's not like an on or off type problem, we'll go and optimize it based on that actual circuit and make sure that the failover happens quicker. So if you are experiencing trouble with, you know, intermittent voice quality, then there's more that can be done. So I'll leave it at that.
Another question from Daryl said, one of your slides looked like you were using a PepLink router. Are you utilizing those routers as well as the others that you mentioned, the Cradlepoint?
We don't use Cradlepoint, but yes, we do utilize PepLink.
Okay, great. Question from Rob Cauffiel. would we be able to provide the LTE modem router and you provide the SIM and unlimited service if we wanted to provide cellular only internet for VoIP?
Yeah, actually, we do have a program for that. We actually do a lot of that, and I'm really appreciate you bringing that up. We have a fantastic deal. Hit us, with any questions about that. We've got an awesome package that you'll definitely enjoy if you want to do wholesale SIMs with us. Absolutely.
Rich Seesma wanted to know if you can provide him a detailed coverage map for Las Vegas. We currently use a couple other air fiber providers, and they often do not have the coverage where needed.
Yeah, I think we can drill down on that. Yes, shoot us a note on that, certainly.
Okay, so Rich, just get in touch with Dominic and you'll be in good shape. Mike Coffin asks, he says, curious how this would be recommended to your team. We have a customer who is in the service industry and phones are absolutely critical to their core business function. However, they are in an area that does not provide any carrier agnostic solution for their failover WAN. It's Spectrum coax all the way down. Running fiber is out of the question since the nearest head end or aggregation point is 10 miles away. We are interested in doing an LTE as a VoIP failover, but as far as the pricing goes, is there any pay-as-you-go solution if the hardware is purchased outright? Do you have any recommendations for customers that are not large enough to afford a 10-mile fiber run, but small enough to make an LTE failover seem like the best option?
Yeah, I think that our price on our basic LTE unlimited package being under $200 a month is probably the best bet. We do have smaller LTE failover packages like 5 and 10 GB that are around 100. We don't have anything pay as you go or metered right now. It's all flat rate stuff, which obviously there's pros and cons to going metered versus unmetered, but we do everything we do right now is flat rate. But we're happy to quote that out.
And our last question comes from John Adams. He says, coming in late, sorry, this may have been provided. Do you currently have a coverage map for the state of Massachusetts?
I believe we have something we can.
Yeah, I'm just sending something back to John right now with my email address. This again gets into an area that we would have to check. On fixed wireless, there's not going to be, that's so address specific because of line of sight. When it comes to LTE, we can serve all of Massachusetts all day long. The big question is it going to be T-Mobile, is it going to be Sprint, or is it going to be Verizon? And that's based on the address. So there's really not something that we can send that's going to say, in this part of Massachusetts, it's all Verizon LTE, and over here, it's really very specific to the address. So I'm just sending that off to John right now so he can send me an address.
That's great, Michael. And then we have one last question that comes from Urban Warner. And this is a really important question because you constantly hear about data caps from the cable operators, from Spectrum and Comcast and Cox being applied at about a gig or a gig and a quarter. Do your packages include truly unlimited wireless access, or are there data caps either on the wireless Ethernet side, the microwave, or the LTE?
Yeah, so we do have some plans that still have a cap that is listed, right? Like the 5 and 10 GB, the small packages one, right? And what happens there is it just slows down. Fixed wireless, there's no caps, period, end of story. We do offer an unlimited LTE to date. I've never had one that's been shut down. I've gone over a terabyte on our LTE and seen no issues. So as of right now, I can say, yes, we've got that. Could it change one day? Could there be a threshold we succumb to? It's entirely possible, but I've never had to shut one down. And we've been doing this for, 5-6 years now.
Another question comes from Dale Morgan, and this is a very interesting one, Michael and Dominic. He says, I'm thinking of moving to a rural off-the-grid location. Is there such a solution?
Well, we could talk. I mean, certainly you know, maybe if it's a really off the grid location, we could tell you where the closest connection would be coming from, and if it's within 10 or even sometimes 20 miles, we can link to it. So, you know, yeah, again, you know, let us take a look at it, let us qualify it, and, you know, we can come up with something.
And with that,
Yeah, it's a good thing. It's a
So-
good thing to ask, guys. We've had a number of people come to us that built their very nice house in the middle of flat out nowhere, and we've still been able to find a solution for them. But good thinking in advance, at least to know what that lay of the land looks like.
Last question from Urban Warner, and this is our last question of the day. Do you have service in Martinsburg, West Virginia?
Yeah, we'd have to get an address and take a look. It's hard to say, but certainly, you know, shoot it to sales at Metro Wireless, and we'll let you know.
And with that, I'm going to talk just a little bit about our prize structure. 4 lucky attendees from today's SkySwitch webinar with Metro Wireless are going to win 20,000 Cloud Cash points, good for use in the SkySwitch store. That's the value of a $50 credit for you to use on your next purchase for one of your customers or for yourself. We've had a great webinar. I want to thank Michael and Dominic and their entire team at Metro Wireless. I'd be remiss if we didn't thank Erica Vasquez, who does such a great job at pulling all the pieces together for each and every webinar that we hold. I'm Andy Abramson. I want to say thank you to our guests from Metro Wireless. I want to say thank you to our resellers who tuned in today, and encourage you to contact either Michael or Dominic for any of your wireless needs. I'm Andy Abramson. Thank you for being part of the SkySwitch family, and have a great week.
Thank you. Thank you, Andy. Thank you, Erica.